What's up, everybody? It's your girl, Beck Easy.
Hi, everybody. It's your girl, Joanne.
Hey, guys. It's Trell, and we are...
The team. And we have special guest, Dr. Nakia Hamlett in the house.
Hello.
How you doing? Thank you so much for coming in.
Yes, we really appreciate it.
Yes, so dope. And this is What About Your Friend? So let's get started.
What about your friend? How was your weekend?
Yeah, good.
Very long.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, did you start a new job?
I started a new job. Monday's my last day, so it's like bittersweet feeling over the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Last day for school?
Yeah, last day before vacation.
Summer vacation.
Yeah.
That's dope.
How was yours, Beck?
I had a good time this weekend.
You guys went to Brooklyn.
Yeah, Brooklyn was so
we went to
dope.
the art show, the art opening
Yes.
last night. It was
For
really
SK Art Space. I love those girls. They're my three RAs from Southern, and they're all into the arts. And I'm like, I remember a while back, like, you guys should open up. They're like,
They hosted when we went to Paint and Sip a couple months ago,
Yep.
they were teaching, and it was really good.
yeah, so
fun.
good. So I'm so happy for them. It's in Brooklyn. Super nice. It's upstairs, a downstairs. The outside had like a nice patio with the lighting.
Nice.
Very nice.
Just good vibes. It was really fun. So I'm super proud of them.
We met
So
these,
shout out
well, we didn't meet them. They kind of like bombarded us as we were parking the car. And one of the guys was like, I didn't even know it was a art studio around the corner, right in my neighborhood.
And then he's like, oh, could we get in? I'm like, oh, I think you got to get a ticket. So, like, they walked us to the door. I was like, oh, y'all have a good time. A few minutes later, we see the guy in there mingling.
Oh, that's nice. Oh, that's
like,
cool.
oh, you got a ticket too? Like,
Right.
okay.
That's just like me being from West Haven and not knowing where Stowe's is.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
That's really a shame.
That's right.
Dr.
How
Nikki, how was
was
your
your
weekend?
It was great. I went to DC to visit my
DC
college
children.
friends. Go
Nice.
Terps. We all went to the University of Maryland together, and so we actually went to this thing called Night Run last
Okay.
night, which is like a music concert, but you run a 5K. 5K? Well, we walked.
Oh,
That's interesting.
It
So
was
you run
like
first and then the concert, or the concert is while you run?
the concert is like right there, and you start walking, and there's little stops where you can dance.
Right.
Like there's like
Oh,
DJ
that's
and lights,
cute.
and they give you all this all these glow in the dark things,
Okay.
and T-shirts. But it was kind of like I'm either gonna have a party or
Right.
run.
That's very
Right.
creative. Very
It
creative.
was 10,000 people.
Oh,
Nice.
so it was very
Nice.
successful.
It was very
Yeah.
successful.
Well, DC is like our second home.
Yeah, we love
Yeah,
it.
me
Me
too.
Oh.
Me too.
Yes,
I love
it's
DC.
such a great vibe. And today is Father's Day, so happy Father's
Happy
Day to
Father's
all
Day,
the good
guys.
fathers.
A lot of our friends are fathers, and they're all doing a fabulous job. So
Yes.
shout out to y'all.
Great fathers.
Shout
Great,
out to
great.
y'all.
Joe, you got that line for us?
I do. Guys, this has just been. I'm so disappointed. In
Our
my
listeners,
friend.
Be kind.
have been-
Yeah,
our listeners
all our
have been
listeners.
getting it.
Shout out to Haley.
Yeah.
So this is a movie line.
Okay.
Okay. So it goes: you belong in the kitchen, and you belong in the corner. Need a pimp?
Is it a
Right.
comedy
It's
or
a comedy / drama. A
Say it
very-
again.
You belong in the kitchen, and you belong in the corner. Need a pimp?
What is the actress or actor?
If I say the names, I think you would guess the movie.
Probably not.
Is it the Tyler Perry movie?
Yes.
Which one was that?
Is it an older one or a more recent one?
I'm not gonna go into
Oh my
that.
god, go ahead. Like, is it like one based off of a play?
No, it's not. Medea's not in it.
Okay.
So is it the one with the couples and Janet
And
Jackson?
and I
like,
gave you a hint.
Why did
Why
I
Get
get
Married?
Why Did I Get Married?
The first one?
Yeah.
What part was that?
When Angela and the guy's mistress.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And they were
Oh,
all
okay,
in
yeah.
there for breakfast, and Angela cooked so well, so she was like, "You belong in the kitchen."
Yeah, right. Because they was trying to
I'm still-
tell
'cause
without telling.
I
Right.
got it for once.
Yes.
Did you get it or did Beck get it?
I just said, why did I get married?
Oh,
She said the actual title.
Okay,
I
she said
described the
so,
movie.
I guess it's a win for
Yeah.
you.
Wait, let's have my win,
Bless
okay?
it for us, right?
I guess.
That's funny. So we are going to start our hot topics. And
What's
of
hot
course,
this week?
the one and only B&J on the Run Tour 2.
The Carters.
Just so dope. It started June
Let's talk
6th.
about those pictures.
Yeah, first of all. So this tour started June 6th. So
Did you
like,
see the pictures?
I saw
Did
it.
you? Interesting, right?
What are your thoughts on the one of her and Jay, and she's like in the fetal position.
And he's looking in the camera.
He's like cuddling her.
I don't know. I think when you're famous, I guess the tendency to like overshare.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I think I can't even imagine what they're thinking, like
Right.
because I personally wouldn't put pictures like that.
Right.
But they're, it's like Kim Kardashian when all those kind of pictures that I'm like, wow, really?
Yeah.
But
And we were thinking about that. Like, is there a little bit of a difference because of how Kim goes about it and how this is like promo for B and Jay?
Right. Yeah, I think we were saying Kim does it like every day, all day. This is just her norm. I think because we haven't heard anything much after she had the twins, and you know them, they're always low key about everything.
They are.
So these are the visuals for the tour. So it's like,
a
look,
promo thing.
we're giving you all of us. Like, here's the nudity.
Yeah.
This is like all of us.
And I
type
feel
of
like
thing.
it was done more tastefully than like Kim just standing in her bathroom taking a selfie in a mirror.
But Jay just looked so
Uncomfortable.
like,
It was a
I'm
weird
just doing
picture.
this. And she wants this done.
Poor
Yeah.
Jay.
Very
Anything
weird.
for love.
Right. It was so funny.
Love is
but-
everything.
He's trying to make sure he get back in those good graces and stay there.
And so, talking about that, they just dropped their album yesterday, Everything Is Love, which is a double album with them together. I haven't listened to it yet because I don't have the title account.
Yeah, we all don't have a title account, and I should be ashamed of saying that.
I'm about to
because
get
I'm
one.
like
I got a new
super
email.
fans, but I also don't stream music. I'm a CD person,
True.
so I don't download or I don't listen to music on my phone. I buy the actual CD.
Mhm.
So, but now that my new car doesn't have a CD player, I should
You gotta
try to.
Bluetooth it.
Yeah.
I used up my free subscription. So then I'm like, I'm about to take the business email.
Well, I'm about to take my business email and use it. I forgot
Yeah,
all
and
about
get
that.
another free just
By
listen
the
to
time
it.
you guys do all that, it's going to be on other platforms, and
But
that's what I was
Lemonade still never is
Still
not even
not
on
on
Apple Music.
Oh, really?
Still.
Oh,
So
she's
I'm not about to take my chances.
stingy.
Real
I'm just
loyal.
gonna get the subscription.
And then, of course, Nas dropped his album as well. It was a little delayed. I had seen a meme, and it was him on a computer, and it was like Nas trying to figure out how to drop his
I
album.
saw that too.
Did you?
Instagram.
Wasn't it funny? Like
Poor
he old
Nas.
school.
Right.
Yeah, but it sounds really good so far. The songs
It
that I've
does
heard.
not
sound
listened
very
yet.
good. There was this one song that the chorus is "They Killing Us." The cops keep killing us.
Mm.
It's very good. I think the Dream is on it and Kanye's on it. You know, the whole 7-song complex thing. I'm like, because you keep hearing the same songs.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm not sure if Kanye's on more than one song.
Or
Right,
if
or
it's
if
just
yeah.
transitioning. That's what.
But it's a very thought provoking album.
nice.
I
I
gotta
feel
check
like
it out.
after 444, everybody has been.
Just-
Well, J. Cole has always been thought
Right.
provoking, but you're seeing a lot more albums that are more conscious and
And
have
what's
more
going on
dialect
today.
to it.
Which
Yeah.
is
And not
good.
that Nas has never
Right.
Yeah.
Right, so he's just basically speaking about what's going on today. And if you listen to the lyrics, it's very up to date.
Right.
But one thing he didn't mention is like Khaleesi's allegations of the abuse. I
Right.
was trying to listen hard and like, oh, you
Or
gonna
like
talk
if
about
he
it?
says something about like, oh, I love my son. Like,
Yeah, he did talk about his son a little bit and his baby mamas, but it wasn't in the aspect
Like a
of
shady one.
her. No, not shady at all.
Because he knows probably not to even address
Touch
it.
it.
Like
Yeah.
I'm just gonna keep
Let
letting
it die
you,
off.
Yeah, do the
I feel like
interviews.
it kind of has. I haven't heard
Yeah.
too much about it since.
Since
So much has happened since that little.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. So this weekend, I'm rooting for everybody black.
yes.
I want to shout out. So there's a new city. It's about a year old in Georgia called South Fulton, and they have an all black, all female justice system going right now.
That's awesome.
Dope.
That is
Yeah.
awesome.
Yep. The police chief, the chief judge, court administrator, the chief court clerk, and then the two attorneys, the prosecutor and the defender,
Mm-hmm.
the public defender. All black. Like the
Dope.
aunties are out there.
Yes, and I
And,
seen the
yeah.
picture, and it was just so dope. Like
So
they all had black
powerful.
on, and
Mm-hmm.
it was just so hot.
One of Judge Sellers said, as African American women, we are sensitive to the history of criminal justice in our country, and we want to be an example of how to do things right.
Nice.
Yes.
So I think that's
Awesome.
important. That's
That's
important.
hot.
And they have like a pre-trial diversion program. That's, I guess, one of the things that is setting them apart from a lot of other justice systems. Is so that, because I guess they do misdemeanor, so it's so that
Okay.
they have the option to not have a record and they could do community service instead.
Oh well, that's great.
And
Yeah,
it's paid for
instead
by
of-
the court budget, so it's coming out of that.
Oh,
and
they
it's
must
that's
have a
dope.
good budget.
yeah. So
I like that because it's not so. Oh, you did this, like you going to jail, like
right.
you're at least trying to, especially if it's something
especially
minor.
For misdemeanors, like,
right?
You know,
It's like, come on, let's, you know, the auntie effect. Like, no, you know, you shouldn't have did that.
And that's the vibe I get from. I feel like they all older, so it's like the aunties are out here trying to get these people
snatch these
check.
kids up.
And it sounds like both the prosecutor and the defense attorneys are working together because you know the prosecutors are just like shut them away, like you know. So it sounds like the whole court system is working together. So that's a beautiful thing.
Yes, it is.
Hopefully, you can
trickle down to everywhere else.
Yeah,
because the way
hopefully, and that's what the article I was reading actually said, that hopefully that they can be an example,
right,
for other justice systems
and show that it works. Like if they continue to do it with the statistics and everything, like look. You know, certain numbers, they hot. So shout out to them.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
That's beautiful.
So there is no you tried it for this week. Everybody's been in good graces,
good behavior. On good behavior.
They've been.
Do you have anybody that tried
Did
it?
anybody try it this week? I don't think so.
That's good.
That's good.
Good week.
That's a good week.
That's a good week.
That's a real good week because usually it's at least
somebody.
1 to 5 people.
Oh, 1 to 5?
That we gotta pick from.
That's true.
Within the 2 weeks,
that's
you know.
Funny. That's true.
That's so funny. So, Child, do you have a question for us?
I do. One of the questions that I got was, how do you help a friend who may be struggling with mental health issues when you don't know all the details? First, I think that you don't need to know all the details in order to be supportive. And sometimes I think just listening to a person is a big help. Like, you don't have to listen to respond, and you don't have to have any advice for them. But maybe just being that person that they can come to and talk to could be a starting point.
Right. Because at least they're comfortable enough to speak with you about it.
Right. I think that's important, too, just being able to open up a relationship so that you guys can have a conversation and
they can continually come and talk to you about things. Right. Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
My thought is about the situation. So just being open to listen and not having an opinion.
Yeah.
And not being so full of self. And what I'm going through, like, turn them away. Like, I can't deal with this right now because I have so much on my plate that I can't deal with your mess on top of my mess. So just being very aware and sensitive to their situation without knowing exactly what's going on, but having discernment to identify, like, this is serious, take it seriously, and be compassionate.
What are your thoughts, Dr. Nakia?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that for one thing, you know, for example, with depression, people feel like, you know, some of their ideas about, like, do people care?
Right.
Am I a burden?
Right.
So I think when you see the signs, you kind of have to seek your friend out a little more. I mean, I've had experiences where, you know, you'll say, I think you should go talk to someone, or I'm here to talk to you even just as a friend, not like in my psychology work.
Right.
And people will say, okay, and they won't do it. So, like what you just said, showing them, no, like, you're not a burden. I'm going to call you or text you, you know, consistently. I'm going to come to your house, right? I'm going to take you out. I'm going to try to, like, you can't get rid of me. I'm here to help you. And I think that helps build the trust. And knowing that you're not just saying it.
Right.
You know, people
And
will say
showing
that.
them.
Right.
Actions.
I agree with that one. So that kind of ties into our topic today. What about your friends? We're talking about mental health and depression and anxiety, and, you know, just checking on your friends.
Right. Yeah. With so much going on in the media with Kate Spade and Anthony Bourdain, they both committed suicide. This was an episode that we already had in mind later on in the year, but because of all that, we said, you know, we need to push it up. And so, what about your friends? So, in January 24th, sorry, y'all.
So this episode is a little tough for us because, as most of you may know, you know, we lost our friend in January to suicide.
And we never talk about it.
And we never talk about it much, but it's something that we are obviously still, you know, dealing with and trying to heal from. So it is a little bit of a tough conversation for us. But we wanted to talk about it because it's important, and I personally, for one, think that suicide, it should be a normal, something that we talk about on a daily basis.
Right.
Our mental health is important, and it's something that we should be focusing on the regular. So
getting that call and just the whole thing from when it happened and helping to plan the funeral. And we threw a celebration for her because Kayla was lit. Like, we all know we were going to have a good time. So we just wanted Dr. Nakia to come on and, help us talk about this situation. So, and I think even without Kayla, it's just we all go through a lot. I feel like I've dealt with loss so much within the last 5 months.
Yeah,
between my grandmother.
Literally like 7 days after Kayla passed, our pastor had passed away unexpectedly as well. So it was just like,
so it was like Kayla a week after our pastor, my grandmother, my dog.
Right. One of our friends' mom, her dad had just gotten out of the hospital from fighting for his life, and her mom had just got a diagnosis. So it just was like a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, back to back to back.
And this is why taking care of your mental health is super important, because a lot of people, like all the stuff that we dealt with in just that few short weeks, could have basically, taken somebody else's life. Like, so we were able to, we're still getting over it, I guess, but we were able to, work through it and deal with it. And some people just can't.
Right. So I wanted to ask, because we're speaking to some people and they ask all the time, like, oh, well, she never showed you signs of, something was wrong. Like, first of all, I get upset when people ask me that, because it's like, no, she told me that she was depressed or something was going on, and I just said, forget it.
Anything.
Of course, if I knew, I would have done something. And that Thursday, she called me and Trell, like, oh, let's go drink wine at Trell's house. And we were like, we're in the bed, we'll go another time. That Sunday, I'm like, oh, are we going to Broccoli Fest? Like, oh, yeah, let me know when you're ordering your ticket, because we're going to D.C.
Right.
And then that Wednesday, it happened. So, of course, if I didn't, I wouldn't have. So I just wanted to ask on the professional, like, what are different signs that you might see or...
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can do your best effort. Right. You can have people go to therapy. You can go to therapy with them. You could do all kind of interventions. But ultimately, if somebody makes that decision, that's something that you can't always stop them from doing. Yeah. So I think sometimes people, in addition to just grieving, feel guilty. Like, I should have known. I should have done something. And ultimately, all you can do is support a person. In terms of signs, I mean, isolating, not wanting to do things, loss of interest in things they used to like, sleeping a lot, not sleeping at all, being irritable, just like fits of crying, talking about it. I mean, some people will make passive suicidal comments, like, maybe it would be better. Yeah, like, maybe it'd be better if I wasn't here, or sometimes I just want to give up. Or they might just say, I've been really thinking about ending my life. I mean, it varies how forthcoming people are about it. But even when you see the signs, people will say, no, I'm fine, I'm fine. So I think it goes back to what we said earlier, that, like, if your intuition, when you know someone, knowing something might be off, just kind of being there for them a little bit more, or like, kind of investigating beyond them saying, no, I'm fine.
Right. Yeah, having worked in psych, they always say if somebody does make like a passive statement, to maybe like press more to see if like they have a plan or something.
Right.
And I personally feel like it should be taken, no matter how small it may seem. I feel like it should just be taken serious regardless, because that, like, what if you brush it off and then, something happened? Now you got to deal with the guilt of, I had an opportunity, or they said it and I didn't pay it any mind. So I just feel like stepping in, even if they might get upset if you, like, call the police or whatever because you want them to get help, I feel like just go ahead and do it still, because better safe than sorry.
Yeah.
That's just how
I think that,
absolutely. And
with going through it, that's not something that we joke around with saying, like, oh, girl, bye. Like, oh, I'm dead. Like, we, it's more serious for us. And I seen on social media with the Kate Spade, committing suicide, and somebody was like, oh, now everybody wants to know about suicide and mental health, like, but you didn't check on your friends, but because it's in media.
Right.
And I'm just like, that's so ignorant.
It's
because
ignorant,
if there's anything that can make people be more aware or want to be more aware,
that's the
ask
first
the
point.
questions, then it should be all for it.
It doesn't matter how the conversation is now being started. The fact that we're talking about it is what's important.
Right.
Well, social media, whenever something like a big topic comes up, it's like there's always has to be a negative narrative to something.
It always has to be the opposite opinion.
Exactly.
That's true. So with seeing those signs, how would you go about moving forward, like, okay, I think this is serious, like, do you just automatically call 911, have them write a PEC and send them to the hospital? Like, what is your advice for that?
I mean, I think it depends, right? So a PEC, as in a physician's emergency certificate, right, it's hard to do that. And so I think the challenge comes because unless someone says, you know what, I'm thinking about killing myself right now, today, if you leave me, or this is my plan, you know, this is what I'm going to use. So for a PEC, it has to be acute, right? And so sometimes because the hospital resources are just, unfortunately, they're limited. And so, you know, having the police come, they may do an assessment. They may drop someone off at the ER if they think it's serious enough. And there's a good chance that they'll say, you know what, I think you're okay. By the time the person gets there, they say, I'm fine. They deny it, or they're better by then, or they're, you know, not better, but they're at least well enough to seem that way. So I think it's got to be hitting it at all angles, like, because there's no guarantee someone's going to be hospitalized, and even if they do, they get put on a 72-hour hold, and then maybe they get sent back home. So, you know, connecting them with services, even if it's going with them, helping them find a therapist, because that's a thing, right? Like, if you're depressed, it's hard enough to even get out of bed. So then you go Google. Google, make an appointment. When is that appointment? So kind of, I think, holding their hand through the process.
And you gotta be patient with them too.
Right.
And a lot of people, I saw, like, with the whole Kate Spade thing, it's like, oh, my friend didn't come to me, or they should come to you. That's not as cut and dry as we like to think.
No, it's not.
People who are dealing with, like, anxiety and depression, like you said, they don't want to go out of bed. And then they're also dealing with the shame, probably.
Right.
So they don't want to come and say to you, well, I'm super depressed and I'm having these thoughts. So it's not as simple as they should come to us, and this brings us back to, what about your friends? Check on your friends.
And in your blog, you mentioned that suicide is not personal to the people in their lives, but personal for them because they personally chose their solution. And then you also said suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. I find it so difficult to sit here and think, like, you know, what's going on in their minds? Like, how did you come with the solution? Like, could you have gone to someone? Was it that hard? For me to even say, was it that hard? Was the situation that hard? But to think of the turmoil that they were going through, to have to pick something so tragic and so permanent, it's like,
it's a mental fight.
Yeah.
Right.
That, you know, if you aren't in it, you don't know anything about.
Right.
And then with society trying to put that face on, like, oh, I'm fine.
Yeah,
like,
I'm fine.
Oh, look, I'm still going to work. There's functioning people that are depressed that are still functioning and go to work and still make time for friends and still make time for family, and you would have no idea. So I think it's really important, like you said, to dig. If you see those things, like, kind of dig. But we want you to tell us about yourself, Dr. Nakia.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. So I was born and raised in New Haven.
Nice.
I went to Foote school for elementary school. So I went to private school, and I was like the one of two African American kids.
Wow.
That was quite a struggle, you know, in terms of growing up. And so that's why at some point, you know, when I was ready for high school, I was like,
I need some diversity.
Yes, I need some diversity.
I need some of us.
Right?
Yeah.
Really? Yeah. So I went to Hill House, right? And so that
Yes, alum.
exactly.
Yeah.
You're not cast now.
Yeah, so it was like, that was great experience. And then I went to the University of Maryland. I was a special ed teacher. I always wanted to be a psychologist. My parents encouraged me to be a teacher first. And so I saw the link between, like, the education of kids who were diagnosed with emotional behavioral disorders and child psychology. And most of my students were young African American boys. And so I also saw the overlap of, like, okay, wait a minute, like, is something else going on here in terms of race and prejudice and, you know, who's marginalized, who doesn't have the opportunities.
Right.
And that sort of just fed into me more wanting to go into psychology so I could figure out sort of just more ways to help children and families. And so I built my career around helping children and families, and I worked at Yale at the School of Medicine for the last 8 years on a young adult team. So young adults with serious psychiatric impairment. And over time, it was clear it was mostly trauma.
Yeah.
Like complex trauma, that comes from, living in broken homes, seeing a lot of community violence, all the marginalization that comes with being poor and often being from a minority background. And so, again, it just fed my passion for really trying to move forward and trying to make psychology something that can help people without all the jargon, without all the language, and sometimes that people don't necessarily understand. Right. In just simple terms.
More relatable.
Exactly. And it's nice to have somebody that looks like you that you can go and get help from, because
Absolutely.
you also, like you said, you can also understand the cultural aspect of it
for sure,
more than, say, your Caucasian counterpart. So I think that's super important for us as Black people, especially because there is such a stigma in the Black community about seeing a therapist.
Right.
So I think having somebody that looks like them will make people more likely to seek help.
And just like you said, a lot of Black males, young boys. So I wanted to talk about the dynamic or the stigma around Black males and how they're always supposed to be strong. And, for a man to go see a therapist is like, what? Like, absolutely not. Like, why do you think that is, or your opinion on that?
I think there's always many levels, right? Like there's the social cultural factors, then there's gender, right? I think men in general are kind of taught to be like, you have to be a man, it means to be this, you don't show your feelings.
Right.
They don't learn the language, I think, for emotional expression, right? And then when you're a Black man on top of that, you're facing sort of what does it mean to be a Black man in my own community, and then what does it mean when I walk out on the streets and people who aren't Black see me.
Right.
I was actually doing some research before I left Yale, and I hope to start it again, doing interviews with young Black men in the mental health system. And the thing that they all said is that people, they don't like the idea that people feel afraid of them, that don't know them, just see them and think things about them like they're dangerous or they're aggressive, right? And so then it doesn't give them the space to just like be a normal person with a range of feelings.
Right.
They feel like a caged animal,
right?
Like basically, I don't want to say a monkey, but a spectator. Like they're in a cage and everyone's watching, but that's how they feel when they walk down the street. And if someone clutches their pocketbook because they feel fearful, but what are you really afraid of?
Right.
The unknown, right?
Unknown of what though? Like why are you? It's just
different.
It's mind-boggling.
Yeah.
It's really mind-boggling.
And then I was thinking too, like the whole what happens here stays here concept, especially in our community. And that just goes for Black males, women, just period. It's like, oh, I don't want anybody in my business.
Right. So I'm suffering from something. I got all this stuff going on. I have the trauma, but I'm not going to talk to anybody because I don't want to put anybody in my business, or I can't talk about this because it's supposed to be private. So I think that has to change, and I think that has to start with us, honestly.
Right.
Our parents might have instilled into us the whole what happens here stays here thing, and that you don't need to go get therapy.
That's business on business.
Right. So I think we as individuals have to take our mental health into our own hands and seek help.
And even in our churches, like we're taught to talk to God, and God will handle our problems and all that. But like, I understand talk to God, but I need someone here that's going to talk back to me, so I can figure out what's going on in my head.
Right. And not everybody has that relationship where they can talk to God or they know how to talk to God.
So exactly.
That doesn't work for everybody.
Or that they know how God speaks back to them.
Right.
Right. The Holy Spirit.
Right.
That's why, I love that movie Moonlight. Did you guys see Moonlight?
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh,
you
it's
did?
beautiful.
Oh, I'm glad.
I heard it was amazing.
Yeah.
It's beautiful because it's the first movie I've seen that gives a voice to the emotional experiences of Black men, but also gay Black men, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like, it just shows these characters as both strong Black men, but also vulnerable. And then, it's a love story basically. And I just felt like it gave a voice in a way that could open the conversation about like a Black man or a man in general or a woman. We don't have to be with your biological family and what that sort of feeds in terms of how secure you feel in relationships with other people, how secure you feel about yourself, right? And so things like that, like separations in families, parents who are incarcerated, parents who die. One time I was doing a psych testing and I was given a trauma scale to this young boy, and it was a question about like, have you ever like seen or been in war? And he said yes. And when I asked him more about it, he was basically talking about his neighborhood, right? And I was thinking like Iraq.
Yeah.
Right.
No, he meant like on the streets of New Haven, growing up, is like a war zone. And so you have that, and then you have intergenerational transmission of trauma from slavery passed down, and narratives that we don't talk about, depression, anxiety, suicide. And so these are all internalized experiences that we don't share with one another, so we just pass them along, non-verbally and in our DNA, pretty much. And until we can create a dialogue about it, I mean, I think that will continue to happen.
Right. Can you mention the book that you were telling us about before, about that you normally recommend?
Yeah, so, and I've been trying to find a book on depression that seems to have the same effect, which I'm not quite there yet with it. But this book is by Dr. David Barlow and Dr. Krask, and it's called Mastering Your Panic and Anxiety, and it's a workbook that people can use to work themselves through whatever they might be experiencing in terms of anxiety. And I think people like it because it normalizes it, that like you're not going crazy, you're not gonna die, right? Because anxiety can feel like, what's happening to me, am I gonna die? And I think it gives people, like, in plain language, tools to like manage it in the moment and cope in the moment when it comes up. And everybody I've recommended it to feels like it's super helpful.
Yeah, I gotta check that out. It sounds really interesting.
It does sound good. And like you said, it's a great thing to normalize it, because before you were saying a lot of people would never be like, I'm depressed.
Right.
But anxiety and like, oh, I'm anxious, like
they'll claim
more,
to say that.
They'll claim that,
Right. Which will help them to lead into like, oh no, it might be more than anxiety.
Can you talk about what it means to be depressed? Because we all are sad, and we all have periods of time where we're sad for a long time. We have loss that we're grieving, or whatever. But what does it mean to really be depressed? What would make a person have to maybe get prescribed medication to deal with it or something like that?
It's kind of like when you can't shake it, right? Things happen that get us all down, right? We lose loved ones. Grief is a real thing that's going to last for, a period of time. That's a little bit different. But like sadness that you can't shake for more than 2 weeks, right? Where you see that, and I think what we were talking about before, sometimes people don't know what's happening.
Right.
You just don't feel like doing anything, or you're really tired, and it's easy to just think like this is just regular life stuff. But when you're at the point where you sort of can't bring yourself out of it, I mean, the DSM, that's our book we use for diagnosing, right? And the way we think of it is like, is there a functional impairment? Like, are you starting to see challenges across your life areas?
Right.
Your social relationships, your marriage, with your children, at work, right? And so when you aren't able to kind of maintain your level of functioning, then and usually it's somebody you love or a colleague saying like, are you okay? Right. And so it maybe clues you in that like, maybe this isn't gonna pass. It's been a month now. Maybe it's time for me to do something.
I know we were talking earlier when I said for a time period that I was depressed, and how my grandmother would tell my little sister like, Joanne's depressed, and she would come to me, she was like, Grandma said you're depressed, and at that time I was young and I didn't know what depression was. I didn't know how to identify with depression or what that meant. I'm like, I'm depressed, but when I finally got delivered from depression, and I look back, I'm like, wow, she never said anything to me. Like, she never was like, Joanne, let me talk to you, or no one never like saw the signs. I'm a very quiet person, and I kind of stay to myself, but in that time of depression it was worse. Like, I never wanted to leave the house. I didn't want to be around my family. I would just be in my room in the dark, sleeping all the time. To me, I just didn't want to wake up and have to live the life that I had. And not that life was hard, but it was just something that I wanted to run away from. But it's like, you can't really fault anyone, because I saw in the in your article where you say that it's not your people around, it's not their fault, and they can't magically make you better.
Right.
But how do I seriously, like, you're my friend and you're like, wow, Joanne is like, really, she's not herself. How does she approach me? is it okay for her to approach me? Like, should she tiptoe about it, or does she just come out like or identify like you're depressed?
I think it depends on the nature of your relationship and how what she knows about your personality and what would work and what wouldn't. But ultimately, if you think of it this way, like if worst case scenario, this person's depressed enough that they might eventually think about ending their life, or on the other hand, I say something and save their life and they don't want to be my friend anymore, you should go with option B. I mean, even if it's like, man, I'm worried this relationship is going to change, but if you save someone's life, then you've been a better friend to them than by ignoring it, so you can still go out with them if they feel like once in a while.
And then eventually I feel like at some point they'll probably look back over their life and say, I've had patients that'll be like, somebody ended up I worked in emergency psych, so they'll end up in the emergency room, and they'll be so upset because so-and-so, she shouldn't have called the police, I just was saying something, and I'm telling them, like, you know what, they did that because they love you. They called because they love you. So maybe, work on yourself, and then you can be able to forgive them for trying to help you. But
you don't want the shoulda, coulda method.
Right. And I agree with that. You would just have to be upset with me.
You would be mad or you want. Like...
And what you said about the dynamics of your relationship with that person, I think that's important. So I would know how to
approach me.
Right, because I think we know each other pretty well. And there might be friends that you have that you don't know how to address them, but with us particularly, I think I would know how to come to you specifically or go to Becca specifically, and in a way that could work.
Right. In the way that you know that person and how they would respond to it or operate. And because we love each other so much and we're not out of pocket, like if you don't get out my face, like if it was a stranger or something, it'll be like,
we know that we're coming from a genuine place, like, sis, I love you.
Sis.
Because we would even do it with Kayla, like, get out, come out of the house, we're going out, we're going to do X, Y, and Z. So.
And even for her birthday, we were like, I was like, oh, we're going to throw, we're going to get you cupcakes, we're going to have a party at the studio. And she was all for it. And then, like, the day before, 2 days before, she was like, no, I don't think I want to. I'm like, we're doing it anyway. I already ordered the cupcakes. Like, let's go. She was like, all right. Like, but
we're able to do that because we're friends with her. So it's easy for us to say, no, that's not happening. You're coming out of the house. We're coming to your house and we're dragging you out.
Right. Which we have done before. And I think it was always, Kayla's always, like Joe said, I'm a person that likes to stay to myself. That was term for her. So it wasn't, it was like, oh, that's just KK. But do you think that some people sometimes won't do that?
Do what part?
Like in November, it's like, oh, no, I'm not going to come. Okay, I'm going to come. It wasn't like that, leading up to when it happened. Everything was fine. We were going out. We were supposed to go to D.C. that Sunday.
I mean, again, I think, and I mean, this is not to say everyone who has an adoption history is, like upset about it. There's some people who are very happy, right? There's a lot of factors that make us behave or act the way we do or feel the way we do. But I think sometimes there are people who just feel on the outside of things in general. And even, how people can feel lonely even when they are with people. And so I wonder if, and I don't know your friend, right? You guys obviously know her, but I'm wondering if like she sort of always kind of felt a little maybe not as connected. Right? And then, she can go out and have fun, but really maybe who knows in her own mind how distant she felt from other people and like no one will understand, no one can really know this, I feel ashamed. I mean, sometimes I think people get so much in their head that if they would just check in with somebody they trust and say like, look, I've been thinking this crazy thing or not, am I tripping right now? And someone who loves you that you trust isn't going to judge you. They're going to say, I appreciate you trusting me enough with this. I hope they would say that. And then, that you can go from there. But left alone in your own head, you can go down a deep, dark hole.
Very dangerous.
The idle mind is the devil's playground.
Yes, very dangerous.
Yeah, that's very true. And then, so after all this and wanting to, I'm a type of person, like, I don't deal with things. Like, I can keep it pushing. Like,
don't talk about it. Don't share experience. Like, when everything happened, I probably was the the last one to break down, I called everyone and let everyone know what happened.
Yeah.
But it hit me, but I didn't react on my emotions. I cried, but I didn't wasn't angry. It wasn't like, ugh, until like the last very moment, because I like to keep everything bottled in. But I know that's not healthy, but what are some ways to deal with our emotion in time of grief?
Right. Because
When
like
grieving.
you said, you had that breakdown. I don't even think I've had that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think, for one thing, journaling is extremely helpful.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as a practice, right, if you don't feel comfortable talking to someone, or even if you don't even know what you're feeling, writing about it, art, painting, music, dancing, like between, I think, artistic kind of stuff, either writing about it, exercise, like it lives in your body, like when you're stressed out, and it also lives in your mind and your thoughts. So kind of hitting it at all these angles, right? Like, listening to music you used to listen to with her, right? And thinking about memories, even if it's by yourself, like crying is healthy. I think of it sometimes like being like emotionally constipated. Like it builds up. You gotta find some way
to let it out.
Some kind of X-lax. I mean, that's like whatever it is, because otherwise it's gonna build up and build up. And I think we are taught to, don't burden other people, just keep it in, be strong, particularly as Black women, right?
Right.
But if you don't let it out, it just builds up in you, and then what happens? It turns toxic. And so I think writing is a good way.
I actually had wrote when I first started my blog. I started my blog in March also, and one of the first posts that I wrote was actually kind of like a letter to her or whatever.
Perfect.
And that helped me a lot, because she said she wasn't even angry. My first emotion was anger. I was angry with her when she called me.
Oh.
I'm like, what are you talking about? And I was upset with her, and I was upset with myself because of the fact that just a couple days before she wanted to come over, and I was too tired to, entertain or whatever. So I dealt with the anger and the guilt a lot in the beginning, and with myself a lot. So that helped me a lot to be able to, write those feelings out. And I shared it, but you don't even have to share. I think it's important to just get it out there, period.
That's right. Just get it out. I think I have a question for you guys, because I think it would be important for people to hear. Like, I was thinking when Danny told me about it, like, that you guys didn't see signs, and people always feel like that, like, oh my God, we didn't know. But if you just think about like her personality, or kind of what issues you knew she was struggling with, did she have times where she seemed like upset, or was she just kind of like?
For me, I've always noticed like that she had like the depressive personality periodically, but I cannot say that I saw any signs that it was gonna be to that extreme. I didn't see that
Never
at all.
in a million years. When
I didn't see that at all.
That day, it was so much traffic, because we work at the hospital too. So, and we were on our group message like, it's hella traffic. Like, what's going on? Whatever the case may be. And then Joey called me. I was on another line. I didn't answer, and then Trell called me. So I'm like, oh, it must be something serious. So Trell told me, and I'm like the person that told her, I'm like, they don't know what they're talking about.
Oh yeah, I'm like, even because after I called her, we got in the car and we like drove to the hospital, and even all the way there and leaving, I still was like, she got the wrong person. She don't know what she's talking about. She just making that up. Like,
right.
It was not something that I wanted to believe to be true at all.
Like, and just that afternoon when Danny was like, Danny said what happened. Someone, and we were like, oh my God, that's so, like, never in a million years. When I got the phone call, never. I was like, what?
Right,
and
like,
even when the person's voice, I was like, why are you so nice and very, it was just weird how she called and was just like, how are you doing? What are you doing? I'm like, I'm fine. What's up? And she said it, and I was like, no way. And then having to call all of them and tell them, it was just like,
That probably was really hard for you.
yeah, it was just like, and they were very annoyed, because I was like,
so
what
annoyed.
are you doing?
I was so annoyed, like, what,
What
Joanne?
are you
Like, what
doing?
are you talking about?
Like, well, that's not something that you want to relate.
Right.
No, it was hard. Like, after I hung up the phone, I was like walking back and forth in my apartment. Like, I didn't even know like what to do next. Like I said, I didn't see any signs that, because and a lot of people ask, I don't know why people ask those questions. Like, first of all, like, give me some space. That's the first thing.
Like, I don't even want to talk about it at all.
At all. Right. But a lot of people will be asking, like, oh, she was so pretty. Like, that has anything to do with anything. That's the first thing. And then it'll be like, was she sad? Did you know? Was she sad? Did she say anything to you? And it's just like,
all the lines people say.
I
think people don't know.
They don't know what to say.
Right.
Which I get
that's
that.
True.
But
it is true.
Don't say anything. Or just give me a hug. Or, you know.
And see, I'm really good with playing the part. Like, in that moment, if somebody asks me something dumb, it's like, oh, you know. But I think that is them wanting to know more about, you know, suicide and things like that. So I can't get upset if that's helping to teach them.
Yeah, that's a way to educate. Right. So
I kind of look at it at that aspect, but I'll look like, are they seriously asking me this right now? But you know, that's just what life, and that's why we wanted to do this topic, because it needs to be out there.
Normalize the conversation. That's what I've been pushing. It needs to be a normal conversation that we talk about on a regular basis. Not even just talking about suicide or depression, just
mental health.
Caring more about your mental health and your mental well-being. Doing things for yourself that are healthy, that are going to make you feel good. Having time to yourself, I think, is important. So that's just my thing. Like, just caring for your mental health just as much as you care for your physical health. You're going to the gym on a regular, you got your routine. I feel like we need to also have a routine of how am I going to take time and clear my mind and do something healthy for myself, other than just working out or eating.
And dealing with disappointment. Dealing with disappointment in a good way. I got some bad news this week, and the minute I got the bad news, I instantly was like, what am I going to do with my life? Like, I want so much things out of life, and I'm like, if I can't do this, like, how am I going to make my dreams come true? So, and then, so I got my results back, and I failed by 10 points. And, so everyone's like, you know, and everyone's counting on me, everyone believes in me, and blah, blah, blah. So everyone's, Joe, you're going to pass your praxis test, and I'm like, yeah, you know, and I believe in myself, I do. Sure. But then when you get the results, it's like, it's not even about me, it's more about, like, everyone, like, rooting for me, like,
feel like you let everybody down.
I let everybody down, and it's like, and, you know, I didn't even tell you guys, but having to share, like, your failures, like, guys, I didn't pass. Yeah. And it's like, what is the next step? Like, so do I give up on my dreams of something that I know that's my passion, know that I can do? Or do I just, like, okay, you know what? I failed this time. Just study more and go take it again.
Yeah. And this is why I think it's important for people to have real, genuine friendships, because notice she just told us right here on the episode. I'm not even going to talk about that.
I just gave her the side.
However, us as friends, she'll come in a group message and say X, Y, and Z, and now for us it's like, okay, so let's make a plan. What's the next step? We're always going to be here to support her, to encourage her, and help her figure out what to do next. So I think that's important, to have good people around you. So when you're feeling like, oh my God, how am I going to get here? Or how am I going to do this? You have other people in your life to lift you up and help you see a different perspective.
Right, absolutely. I would add too, like, and I think that's like my next blog I started working on is coping, right? Like, we don't have to cope when things are going well. Like, we don't have to cope to have a fun night or hang out and have a nice dinner. But when things like that happen, that's when you have to, like, figure out, okay, what are my internal resources to handle this? And that's why in that blog it says suicide is a permanent solution, because if you can just get through that time with whatever support you need, things are bound to get better, right? And it's like, when I was working on this, like, when you get an email when somebody makes you really angry at work and they, like, CC everybody on it, and they could have just came and talked to you, and you start typing out that email back to them, and then you're like, no, wait a minute,
backspace,
let me not do this, let me just deal with this for a second, and then you find that if you give yourself that minute, then you can get to a better place. And I think sometimes suicide happens at that low point, and people don't feel like they have the resources to manage it. But if they could just get through that moment, I mean, I think there's better times on the other side.
Now, do you have any resources that you would suggest for mental health or, people that are going through depression, things like that?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, things we've talked about, right? Like journaling, talking to other people. I mean, exercise is just a natural way to get the chemicals in your brain, to be boosted, right? Like that adrenaline and endorphins that come from exercise is a good way to change your mood. A lot of the research, too, around depression suggests that this strategy we call behavioral activation, which is the idea that you don't wait until you feel better to do stuff. You do stuff and then you'll start to feel better.
Right.
And so I think just making a list ahead of time of like pleasurable activities or people that that make you feel good to spend time with or that you can call, and just having that to access, so that when you do have those low points, you could say like, you know what, I agreed with myself, I'm just gonna go see a funny movie today, or I'm gonna watch my favorite, watch Martin, right? Like when Martin comes on, it's hilarious. Watch something to make you laugh, and just kind of take the effort to get out of that mood state.
Right.
And
Healthy
the more you can
coping
practice,
skills, though.
the more you
Healthy.
can practice that,
Right.
it's like a muscle. It gets stronger and stronger.
I want to add too. I'm gonna put a little plug in right here. If you guys go to my blog, iBrownSugar.com, I have a post up where I talk about different resources. It's called "What Does Suicide Have to Do with Me?" And I share some of the online resources that you can have. They have there's one in particular called Talkspace, which is like a texting therapy. What do you think about that? What is your thoughts on that?
I mean, I think in general, like there's a number of excellent online resources, and I think the main thing is awareness and access. And the reality, as much as it would be great to come into someone's office and to make an appointment and talk to someone, just for a number of reasons, that's not realistic for everyone.
Right.
And so I think if something like Talkspace could help people who aren't up for leaving their house, don't have transportation, whatever barriers could be to actually.
You gotta find what is gonna work for you.
Yeah. So I think that's great. I think it's a great thing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So let us know, or let our listeners know where they can find you. Do you have any social media outlets? And we want everybody to tune into her blog. It's called Designer Depression, 8 Important Tips for Helping When Hope Has Died. And her website is complexpsych.com.
Yeah. Thank you. So my website is www.complexpsych.com. I mostly do consultation and psychological testing at this point, but I do always have colleagues for referrals for therapy, because I do get calls about that, and I'm happy to let people know other African American therapists in the community.
Absolutely.
And then all my social media is the same name, Complex Psych. Hamlett Psychological Services LLC is my business. But my Instagram is Complex Psych. I just started a Facebook group that's Complex Psych. I'm thinking about starting a podcast. That's going to be called Complex Psych. So, I mean, if you go to my website, everything will be there.
Yeah. So that's www.complexpsych.com. Make sure you guys check her out.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Joe, you have a positive vibe?
Yes. My positive vibe actually was inspired by the blog. By her blog. So life is hard for all of us. However, it's good for us to be mindful and to always watch out for the signs. Watch out for one another. Always look out for one another. So be kind, be strong, be loving, be there, and be aware.
Yes, that's dope. It's very, very, very important. So my birthday is next week, you guys.
Hey.
Happy birthday to me. I've been so busy. I'm like, oh yeah, my birthday is literally next week. So our birthday, we have our first Sunday's brunch that we're getting ready to start on July 1st.
July 1st, cancer season.
Yes, so get your tickets.
Yes, come.
It's gonna be
Get your
so
tickets.
fun. Oh yeah, you will love
I'll
it.
keep that in
down
mind.
there.
Yes, at Jack's Steakhouse is
Okay,
so good.
awesome. Yeah,
I
I've
did
never
a
been
taste
there.
test the other day.
Food was delicious.
Is it?
Yeah, it was a lot of food.
The menus.
So that's July 1st. Make
Okay,
sure you
good.
guys follow us on our Facebook, our Instagram, our Twitter.
Don't forget, if you guys got any astros, DM us or email us if you know somebody who tried it. Send those submissions in so we
Open
can.
forum.
Yeah, if you guys got anything you want to talk about on our upcoming live chat, you can also
Let us know.
We can answer some questions then as well.
Yep, pop in the DMs.
And most importantly, if you or someone you know are experiencing depression or you're having thoughts to harm yourself, call 1-800-273-8255. That's the Suicide Prevention Lifeline, and they can direct you to a lot of resources. Also, 201 is a great number to call if you need to find some resources. So that's 1-800-273-TALK or 211 if you are having any thoughts to harm yourself or you're feeling hopeless and you want somebody to talk to.
We love you guys. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time.
Thank you guys.